How much food do you think you waste in a year? This includes food that went bad in the back of your fridge, extra food you threw out because you didn't eat the rest, and even food that you didn't finish eating and scraped into the garbage bin. Shockingly, according to the RTS, the average American wastes an average of 325 pounds of food every year. One complex aspect of the climate crisis is that of food waste. While throwing away your food may seem like a mundane chore, it can actually be detrimental to the environment in more ways than you may think. Let's take a more in-depth look into the complexity of food waste, including what it is, some facts and statistics, as well as some possible solutions to this problem. Before we can approach any complex problem, we must first prove that there is one. The following are statistics on food waste from the RTS website. Did you know that almost 40% of the entire U.S. food supply is wasted every year? The amount of food waste equates to around 130 billion meals. Researchers add from their work strengthening community collaboration to address food access and food rescue efforts that with more than 6.4 million households that experience food insecurity, it doesn't seem fair that so much food is needlessly wasted. Now that we know how much food is wasted, we have to ask where this waste comes from. There are many different stages of the food cycle, and each stage is responsible for a different amount of waste. For example, during the farming and manufacturing stages, about 18% of food is wasted. Produce that is grown but not consumed occupies almost 1.4 billion hectares of land, roughly 30% of the world's agricultural land area. During the manufacturing stage, the main cause of waste is due to human error. Finally, restaurants, grocery stores, food delivery services, and families waste the most food at around 83% of waste in the food supply chain. This means that most food waste is avoidable. Now that we have seen how much food is wasted, we need to ask ourselves why it is wasted. Certainly farmers, manufacturers, grocers, and families do not throw out food without a good reason. And while this sounds true, unfortunately it is not. In fact, more than 80% of Americans discard perfectly good consumable food simply because they misunderstood expiration labels. However, this is not the only reason food is wasted. Americans are often impulsive in their food purchases, unrealistically addressing how much food is required, and as a result buying more food than they actually need or buying food they won't actually eat. In the article Just Desserts, The Morality of Food Waste in America, the authors question the American food system, which all but demands the production of excessive food, which complicates ideas about what constitutes ethical consumption. This lack of concern, along with other factors including less than optimal utilization of farming land, lack of governmental policies concerning food waste, and little to no education on the impact of food waste on the environment, are all factors that contribute to this abundant waste. According to the RTS website, if Americans continue on the same path of food loss, the environmental impact could be disastrous. Wasting food has irreversible environmental consequences, such as wasting the water and energy it took to produce it. Food waste also generates greenhouse gases, 11% of the world's emissions, like methane and carbon dioxide, which contribute to global warming. Food that sits decaying in landfills also produces nitrogen pollution, which causes algae blooms and dead zones. According to the World Wildlife Federation, the production of food wasted in the United States is equivalent to the greenhouse emissions of 37 million cars.
The Earth is hurtling towards a climate danger zone, and scientists say greenhouse gas emissions are to blame. But what are greenhouse gases, and how do they contribute to climate change? They're gases in the Earth's atmosphere, which create a blanket that traps heat. While they allow sunlight to pass through them, they prevent the heat that the sunlight brings from leaving the atmosphere, similar to how a greenhouse works. Ultimately, this is what causes global temperatures to rise. Since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, coal-powered steam engines have drastically increased the amount of greenhouse gases emitted into the atmosphere. In 2015, as part of the Paris Accord, many governments pledged to keep global warming below 2 degrees Celsius this century. But temperatures have already increased by over 1.1 degrees, resulting in more disasters like flash floods and wildfires. Carbon dioxide is among the most harmful greenhouse gases on Earth, along with nitrous oxide and methane gas. Greenhouse gases are primarily emitted through burning fossil fuels, like coal and natural gas, for electricity, heat, and transportation. While some gases are more effective than others at making the planet warmer, they all remain in the atmosphere for years, some for thousands. The UN Secretary General says a new report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reveals a multitude of broken climate promises by governments and corporations. And now the planet is barreling towards a tipping point that could lead to cascading and irreversible climate impacts. The Earth's temperatures will soon shoot past a key danger point unless greenhouse gas emissions fall faster than they're expected to.
Now that we have proven that food waste in America is a serious problem with irreversible repercussions, what can we do to fix it? There are many potential solutions that can be considered. These solutions range from large-scale solutions to individual involvement. It is important to remember that these solutions do not fix the problem of food waste, but instead can be used to counteract the negative effects of food waste on the environment while we work toward more sustainable options. According to the U.S. Food Waste Policy Finder, Ohio does not have any organic waste bans or waste recycling laws that bear on food waste. There is also no tax incentive in Ohio to encourage people to limit food waste and increase recycling and composting. And while currently there is no federal food waste disposal tax, some researchers suggest the potential outcome of a proposed food waste disposal tax would be positive, and many states have already implemented local laws surrounding food waste bans. As we saw before, farming is one of the stages of the food cycle in which food is lost. One of the greatest losses is due to unmarketable produce being thrown away. In a 2018 study, researchers found that around 42% of the total amount of produce grown was discarded because they didn't meet the industry standard, yet were still edible. The researchers said that the volumes remaining in the field that were of edible quality were higher than the marketable volumes overall, suggesting an opportunity exists for further utility, possibly in food service, food processing, alternative markets, or the emergency food supply. Young people are the future, and they take climate change very seriously. A New York Times article by Susan Shane shows how committed children are in the fight against climate change. Not only have they encouraged their families to waste less food at home, but they have also started community recycling and composting projects. Education is an important part of decreasing food waste. In an experimental activity called the Food Waste Challenge, university students brought their personal food waste into class in order to get a better understanding of the impact individuals can have on food waste and consequently the environment. The researchers of this activity said that creating connections between the classroom and real-world problems is imperative in higher education to engage students, achieve desired outcomes, and create these high-impact experiences. If we all do our part, we can truly make a lasting difference, which brings us to our last area of focus. There are many ways you can help make a change. A lot of food that is bought is never even used. Try planning out your meals so you only buy what you need. When you find yourself with leftovers, don't immediately throw them away. Try to reuse them or incorporate them in different ways or into new meals. You can also consider composting your food scraps and unused food to decrease the environmental impact of food waste. Food services such as Imperfect Foods repurpose food that would normally be thrown away. Produce that did not make it to the shelves due to visual imperfections or other foods that were slightly damaged along the way but are still safe and usable are sold and delivered to the customer's house. These are just a few small changes we can all make to create a better environment for us all.
Each year, we throw away 1/3 of the food we buy. That adds up to over 1 billion tons of food wasted worldwide every year. And when we throw away unwanted food, that's not all we're throwing away. Millions of hectares of forests are cut down annually to grow food. This puts a strain on our water supply and leads to the loss of animals, plants, and where they live. When the food we throw away rots, it releases harmful greenhouse gases and causes pollution. So what can we do? By simply planning our meals, buying only what we need, researching recipes to use up leftover ingredients, avoiding discounted multi-buys in the supermarket, and buying loose fruit and vegetables rather than large bags, we can make a significant contribution to protecting the planet for future generations. And save ourselves around €700 a year in the process. To learn more about reducing food waste in your home, visit stopfoodwaste.ie.